had been allocated to. The question is, will they deliver? That is what President Yoweri Museveni has urged them to do as they kick off day one of the Kyankwanzi retreat.
Especially now that there is no more sleep. And I can tell you, there is no more sleeping on the headlines.
Well, we'll get into that before the headlines. There's a number of petitions that have been filed for the members of parliament. 107 petitions we are talking right now. Different members of parliament who have secured victory in the past election have been challenged in court. You can look at them. Justin Namere, you have Angela Okoth, and many of them, 107 of them petitions. Will the judiciary be able to handle first? They're saying they are broke to handle the petitions.
Then there's that long walk to freedom all the way from the Central African Republic. We will definitely have space for that one too in our bulletin this evening. Shall we not? Shall we?
The public will judge us by results.
Cabinet retreat opens in Kyankwanzi with President Yoweri Museveni warning against ideological gaps that have kept Ugandans in poverty.
Stop playing around and help our people transform.
Former Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago arrested. His whereabouts remain unknown.
The plan now is to go to the police and report.
Uganda Law Society issues a 24-hour ultimatum demanding the release of Erias Lukwago.
It is subordinate to civilian authority, non-partisan.
Former LRA ex-combatants return home.
So the same heart we used to show to them, we need to maintain it.
Does this signal the end to LRA war? And the good news is
the price of barrel of crude oil has now gone down to $83.
Hopes of oil prices going down as Trump and Iran reach deal.
It's a good step, and it brings, good news.
This is NBS Live at 9 with Victoria Sibia, Samson Kasumba, and Kanari Mugume.
All right, we get into our top story tonight. President Yoweri Museveni has challenged ministers and permanent secretaries to address what he described as ideological gaps that have kept many Ugandans trapped in poverty and subsistence living. Speaking while opening a week-long cabinet retreat at the National Leadership Institute in Kyankwanzi, Museveni said he's tired of repeating the same message and urged leaders to use the knowledge already provided to help citizens improve their livelihoods.
That timeline.
By the time we arrived at the National Leadership Institute, Kyankwanzi, ministers and permanent secretaries from various ministries had already begun orientation sessions on government operations and coordination with other arms of government.
Project execution, but accountability for results. Right Honorable Prime Minister, we need this Chisanja to get out there more, and we commit to support you.
Shortly after midday, the presidential helicopter touched down at the institute, carrying President Yoweri Museveni, who officially opened the 10-day retreat. The retreat has brought together cabinet ministers, state ministers and permanent secretaries. Government officials pledged to start the new term with renewed focus and committed to closely monitoring government programs and projects, some of which have previously drawn public concern.
The public will judge us by results. Citizens expect quality education.
Hard work is necessary. Commitment is a must.
While opening the retreat, President Museveni reflected on Uganda's history, saying many leaders today lack a proper understanding of their responsibilities, a situation he said has contributed to leaving many citizens behind.
I'm really tired of seeing leaders talking about irrelevant things.
Museveni said improving people's livelihoods will depend largely on economic empowerment and education. He noted that he no longer wants to see Ugandans trapped in poverty, saying he has already provided the necessary guidance.
Economic transformation. The peasants must disappear in Uganda. We cannot have peasants anymore. They must be either middle class or skilled working class.
The president said he is tired of repeating the same message and directed leaders to return to their constituencies and institutions to change people's mindset and equip them with skills to overcome poverty.
They will come, parliament, what? I've been polite, but I'm tired of being polite. You must go to your area and push people
house to house.
Participants are also expected to travel to the Bunyoro sub-region to inspect key government projects, including developments in the oil and gas sector.
President Yoweri Museveni is very emphatic in the fact that he is tired of being polite. Let's get to what else he has been saying, and he also wants people to be forced to get out of poverty. But whilst in Changwazi, the highlights there, President Yoweri Museveni to leaders that they must focus on socio-economic transformation. That's something on his heart, and people in leadership must understand, emphasis must understand their purpose. Museveni criticizes leaders for discussing irrelevant issues. And finally, President Yoweri Museveni is calling for a building of a middle-income class and skilled workforce. What else was there, Canary?
Well, we take a look at more highlights from the Chankwanzi retreat. He said that poverty can be defeated through education and the economy, but he also said that peasant households must transition to the middle class. Also emphasized agriculture, manufacturing, services and ICT, the sectors that he identified as key.
Still, President talking in Chankwanzi, the president also said, and he called for an end to playing around in the new term. He is tired of people playing around. And President also urges the cattle corridor farmers to grow pasture. And as well, finally, but by no means least, it was President Yoweri Museveni that all families must move out of subsistence living. This time round, some way, people will get out of poverty, either willingly or by force.
All right, we take a look at more on what's happening in Chankwanzi. After President Yoweri Museveni delivered his speech detailing the set development agenda, ministers expressed optimism that once implemented, the resolutions will help Uganda hit its 10-fold growth target.
Ministers have to go down to the people. We have an issue as government that we sit in office and do not go down to the people. We are supposed to go down to the grassroots. For socio-economic transformation, we cannot do it in offices.
So it is incumbent upon the leaders now to see how to implement this going forward. Right from local government, the Minister of Local Government should make sure that the districts, the municipalities, the divisions are well managed and catered for. The PSST should check the accounting officers at all levels.
We are going to make sure that the 4 ATMs are the ones, that the principles, the triggers of growth to provide employment for the younger people. So one of the biggest threats of the country and the challenges is youth unemployment. We have skilled youth, but they lack opportunity. So that's where the focus is going to be, on youth unemployment. It's a big threat for Uganda.
It's our responsibility as ministers to give accountability to the public while in office, what we are doing in terms of time, but also in terms of resources. And we're also looking at not only on the outcomes on paper, but we want to see the outcomes, the impact of our activities to the public.
Now, persons dressed in what looked like UPDF uniform are said to have raided the home of former Kampala Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago in Wakariga and whisked him away to an unknown destination. According to reports, the individuals who took Lukwago had been deployed around his residence for some time. Two cars were involved in the operation. One bore registration number plate UBL 124E, while the other had no registration plate.
As news spread that security personnel had surrounded Wakariga village, especially the Bulwa zone area where the home of lawyer and former Kampala Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago is located, we visited the area and found the situation tense. Although nothing unusual could initially be seen outside the residence, after surveying the neighborhood, a van with registration number UBL 124E was seen stationed near Lukwago's home. Border riders in the area were seen moving in patterns which showed that the area had effectively been sealed off, and in what could be described as a coordinated operation, the occupants of the vehicles eventually proceeded directly to Lukwago's residence. Some cut through barriers and entered the compound before opening the gate for others waiting outside. At about 10 a.m., these security personnel removed Lukwago from his home and drove him away to an unknown destination. Family members, including his wife and close associates, were left asking why security forces had come to arrest him in such a forceful and frightening manner. They also questioned why he had been denied a right to go with his medicine. His wife, Zawed Delwama, described the events and condemned the manner in which her husband was taken.
Already we are saying no. This is not how we are going to run. This is a lawyer, a respected lawyer. Lawyer
Medadubega Segona criticized security agencies for arresting people in ways that do not follow legal procedures and called on the responsible authorities to stop such practices.
A person may be summoned or even arrested by people who are able to identify themselves. It has not happened, and we are following it up. Our plan now is to go to the police and report a case of kidnap as we wait to see how things unfold.
The Ghana Police Force has distanced itself from reports of former Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago's arrest. According to the Ghana Police Force and through its spokesperson, Rusoke Kituma, the force has no record of any detention involving Elias Lukwago. The statement does come as questions mount, and it is over the circumstances of the alleged arrest and his current whereabouts. The police now say they will release more details once the facts of the matter are established and become clear.
Honorable Elias Lukwago, I'm not aware, but in the event that I get more information about it, we can always share it. Yeah.
Relatedly, the Uganda Law Society has issued a 24-hour ultimatum demanding the release of Elias Lukwago, one of the lead lawyers representing veteran politician from the opposition, retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Kifefe Besigye, and his aide, Obed Lutare Kamlege. The professional legal body says that should Lukwago not be released within the stipulated time, it will seek redress from relevant authorities both locally and internationally.
Shortly after reports emerged of the alleged abduction of former Kampala Lord Mayor and lead defense lawyer Elias Lukwago, the Uganda Law Society expressed shock over the manner in which he was reportedly treated. The law body called for a transparent and lawful process in addressing his situation, should there be any legitimate charges against him.
An attack on one advocate is an attack on the entire bar and on the rule of law itself. The Uganda Law Society reserves all legal and professional remedies.
In a protest statement authored by the Uganda Law Society President Isaac Semakade, the society demanded Lukwago's immediate release within 24 hours and restricted access to him by his family and legal representatives, and the urgent intervention of the Chief Justice and the Attorney General to ensure the safety and independence of the advocates.
The UPDF must be reminded in the strongest terms that under Article 208(2), it is subordinate to civilian authority, non-partisan, and has no role whatsoever in intimidating, threatening, or arresting members of the bar for performing their constitutional and professional duties, including service of court process.
In an online address during the ongoing Besigye treason trial, lead counsel Martha Karua spoke against increasing harassment and intimidation of advocates involved in high-profile cases.
These actions are harassment, intimidation against counsel Lukwago, and by extension against all of us who are appearing in the case.
The Uganda Law Society also revealed plans to engage the Chief of Defense Forces, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, on fostering harmonious relations between security agencies and members of the legal profession. The society argued that the alleged abduction of Lukwago is not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern in which advocates have faced harassment and intimidation at the hands of security personnel. The Law Society, however, maintained that they may consider mobilizing court boycotts in the future, though for now it is not an option.
A total of 46 ex-LRA soldiers have returned home from the Central African Republic via Juba. The returnees were received by Archbishop Emeritus, His Grace John Baptist Odama, and CMI boss Giano Richard Oto. The 46 have their origins in Uganda, Central African Republic, South Sudan, and Congo.
At 11:07, 46 ex-LRA soldiers landed at Guru Airfield. One by one, they took a step out of the plane to the reception of the awaiting team. For some, they were returning home after many years, while for others, it was a completely new experience. Emotions and anxiety ran high with no idea of what they were getting into. Nevertheless, they were finally home. Here, they were welcomed by Archbishop Emeritus John Baptist Odama, General Richard Oto, and their relatives. At 11:55, in a convoy, they were driven to SOS Rehabilitation Center, which will serve as their new home and provide a new beginning.
We have two groups here. These ones, there are 46. There are 6 foreigners. I want to thank the 6 foreigners for encouraging their colleagues to join these Ugandans and come home, because it was not even far to cross to Central African Republic.
Not sure of the future, Richard Ouma, one of the returnees, asked government and local leaders to make them feel at home. Okomo Martin, Deputy Prime Minister Kekwa Aracholi, says each of the returnees will go through cleansing process as an institution. They will have it done soon.
Individually, they will step on an egg, and that is a cleansing process. I truly believe an egg is as innocent and round as it is.
The 46 returnees will now undergo rehabilitation by an organization called Terra Renaissance as they wait for government resettlement package.
We're going to offer psychological rehabilitation where we do rehabilitative therapy, we'll do trauma therapy, and also physically, we will do medical rehabilitation.
Both the army and local leaders are calling for forgiveness, love, and reintegration of the returnees into the community without stigmatization.
So the same heart we used to show to them, we need to maintain it.
As you know, that when you are in a captivity, there is a lot that happens. Post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, and a lot of other things could be happening to our brothers and sisters, and we will be on hand to support.
After 2 decades of LRA war and the return of peace, LRA Commander Joseph Kony remains very elusive. With the return of 46 ex-LRA soldiers, the question that remains is what next and how will they be reintegrated back into the community? Now, our bureau chief in the area, Benson Ongom, joins me this evening. Benson, a very good evening. You grew up around the time of the LRA war, and you saw the trauma running left, right, and center. What does this mean to people like yourself and the community?
Well, it's a very emotional moment, Samson, again, very emotional seeing those group of people returning back to the country. Again, if you grew up in this part of the region, you'll know the pain, you'll know some of the experiences. But the bigger question here is what next for these returnees? Again, they're returning home. They don't know where they come from. Some of them, they don't know their families. And again, the bigger picture is with the government. How will these people be resettled? In the past as well, we've seen a couple of them being given amnesty, but also government withdrawing. Remember a case that is ongoing at the
at the ICC. I mean, the case that went at the ICC and now an ICD, Kwoyelo's case, given amnesty, again withdrawn. That amnesty has been the highest, longest serving remand person in prison as well. But again, how will these people be settled in the community is the bigger question. In terms of livelihood, they're going through rehabilitation for a period of 3 to 6 months. What will government give to them in terms of package? In the past, we have seen NUSAP 1, NUSAP 2, NUSAP 3 talking about sustainability, but also the wider conversation is people that came back earlier. This is the third batch of the ex-LRA soldiers who are returning back home. How they will be rehabilitated is going to send a great message for some of the people that are still in captivity, including Joseph Kony as well. We know the trial of his former commanders. Again, we are wanting him to come back to face the law or to face reconciliation in our local term here. So that is the bigger question. But lastly, is the question of Matoput, reconciliation. Will people forgive them or not? And the question of stigmatization has been told. So that's the bigger picture, Samson.
Benson Ongom Afoyo, thank you a bunch there. Still on that story, Archbishop Emeritus, His Grace John Baptist Odama, has called on the people of Acholi and Uganda generally to forgive and show love to those who return home from the LRA captivity. He says to achieve peace and see people return home has been a process of full prayer.
These are now our children. Let them not be left isolated. They should be welcomed everywhere. If very much it should be everywhere. Some who came earlier, they may still be hesitant. Have they really welcomed us or not? They are at a loss, some of them. But I would like that all of us put effort to welcome all these now, plus the older ones. If it's cultural, please handle the issue culturally. If it is there, let it be done. So that I would wish these people to feel truly at home in their own country now.
It's a big movement from the Central African Republic all the way out of there onto Ugandan soil. And that's the movement out of the Central African Republic into the South Sudan and then right into Uganda. And I think it is Canary who can sort of try to bring us up to speed. With what kind of distances are we talking about here, Canary?
Well, we're talking a huge movement, distance covered. We're doing about, so they were in Central African Republic right there, as you can see, and they did move. Here they were with the splinter groups of the LRA, and then they later moved all the way to Darfur, that is in Sudan. After moving to Darfur in Sudan, they had to move by foot and sometimes borders or motorcycles. They moved on to the border here at on South Sudan, and they were picked by South Sudan authorities, brought in two areas here called, an area here called Waho, and that is much in northern South Sudan, and then later they were picked and flown all the way to Gulu Airport, and that is via Juba here in South Sudan. That is quite a movement they did and trekked for kilometers, very many kilometers, thousands and thousands of them, and they are now in Gulu. They'll go through a rehabilitation center where they'll be given psychological support until they are integrated into the community there in northern Uganda. So Samson, that's the movement of the 46 that were brought in today.
Many thanks there, Kanare Mugume Forrest. Now we will be joined by the former Deputy Prime Minister and a governance expert, Mr. Bernard Olum, who joins us this evening. Bernard, thank you so much for joining us this evening. The big question that we want to ask is, to what extent is this return a signal of the end of the LRA war?
Amson, I want to first of all thank the Uganda People's Defense Forces for returning the 46 former LRA soldiers who returned today in Gulu. We thank the UPDF for that effort, but also it is part of the peace process. And if you remember the discussions in Juba, there was a consortium called the Advisory Consortium on Conflict Sensitivity. that highlighted a number of issues that we needed to deal with in the post-LRA conflict. One of them was the accountability for what we call the dead and the missing persons. Now, when they continue to return, it gives us a lot of hope that the missing persons are actually still somewhere and they're returning. You remember in 2004, we had a pocket of them return. Last year, there were a few of them that returned. And this year and today, we are receiving about 46 of them. I think for me, that gives us a lot of hope that our children, our brothers, our sisters who are still in captivity are somewhere, and one day they will return. They are returning at a time when Acholi is in transition. And I think we will need to do a lot more than what we are seeing now. Previously, we had planned resettlement programs, which unfortunately we do not have now. But also the amnesty law, though there were accusations that we shouldn't give blanket amnesty, but amnesty also helped us in the process of receiving the LRA soldiers back home. And we think what we need to deal with now is, one, how do we do family tracing? As they're in rehabilitation, we need to begin to look at family tracing. How do we reunite them with their communities? And also, how do we now manage the element of stigmatization that we know is going to happen? But also, interestingly, we have Central African Republic, South Sudan. Now we have a whole lot of a cross-cultural issue to deal with as we take on the reintegration process.
His Grace Archbishop John Baptist Odama, his voice is huge, and he's been in this peace process for a very long time. He's calling for peace, he's calling for reconciliation, he's calling for forgiveness. The returnees themselves are speaking as much. Do you think this is easy to achieve, or was there too much bad blood that even Matoput cannot handle?
There is nothing that the traditional justice mechanism cannot do. You just outrightly saw the Deputy Prime Minister talking about stepping on an egg. It is a cleansing process. Samson, if you were born in Gulu and you've stayed in Kampala for 10 years without crossing Karumba, you'll definitely have to step on an egg to cleanse you before you are reintegrated into the community. The Archbishop Emeritus is an icon of peace. He has been very instrumental in ensuring that peace returns to this part of the country, and we think his voice will add a lot of weight to this reintegration process.
Thank you very much for your thoughts. I'm not so sure. After the bulletin, do I still need to step on an egg?
Yes, as part of the cleansing process. And that is the traditional justice. By the way, even Dominic Ongwen, who is now sentenced, should he come back after serving his sentence, he will be subjected to the same traditional justice processes that the others have gone through.
Thank you very much. And I definitely can tell you that a lot of people who insult me on social media, you need like trays of eggs to step on. But let's get into a break.
Feedback brought to you by.
They are designed to support your growth. Visit absa.co.ug for personal loans that help where it matters. ABSA, your story matters.
Let's get into feedback. First, the question and then the responses. President Yoweri Museveni warns against ideological gaps that he says are keeping people in poverty. What is your view? Let's get into your views right there. They should organize retreats more often for leaders to keep them aligned with the party direction and ideology, and appoint competent leaders as well. You mean this lot is not competent? Like, what are you talking about? Restructure the whole system from grassroots, and the problem is solved, and make laws to curb the vice of corruption, and we will be set to cruise. I can tell you we do have enough laws. And I think we also need a law like on a break, like how to go into a break.
Sorry, the number you have called is currently switched off. Please try again later.
The Kamani is not picking up my calls. He has now switched off his phone. He looked legit, so I paid him 500K to process my NSSF money. How dare you?
In 30 seconds, I'll tell you why you have until the 30th of June 2026. First, the 30th of June is your deadline to file your tax returns for the financial year ending 2025-2026. Don't wait. Late filing means errors, and errors mean penalties. Second, if you have an outstanding tax, pay your principal by the 30th of June 2026, and URA will give you a 100% tax waiver. No interest, no penalties, gone. File and pay now at www.ura.go.ug.
Developing Uganda together.
Calling all P4 to P7 pupils. Here's a chance to win school fees and up to 12 million shillings for your school in the Bank of Uganda Primary School's poetry competition. Write a poem on any one of these 3 themes: the benefits of saving money in the bank, how to save money and why we should save, or how to handle currency notes and coins. Email your poem to bou60@bou.or.ug or drop it off at any Bank of Uganda branch by 30th June 2026. Poems should be between 10 to 30 lines long, original, and never published before. Only 1 entry per pupil. For more information, visit bou.or.ug/bou60.
They share an office. Some work in the day, some at night. What they have in common: focus, dedication. That's what makes them champions. They also share something else: the reward of being one. The official beer of the FIFA World Cup 2026. Not for persons under the age of 18. Drink responsibly.
In a fast-moving world, why are we still stuck with paperwork? Signing here, stamping there, moving from office to office. It's exhausting. Now, there's a better way. With UG Pass, you can securely prove your identity, sign documents, and access government services anytime, anywhere. No delays, no stress. Everything is instant, safe, secure, and government-backed. UG Pass, your identity secured. Available in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. UG Pass is a product of NITA Uganda.
Life unfolds in chapters. Through many of these chapters, Jubilee has been present. But life does not happen in separate chapters, and protection should not be separate either. 2 journeys have become one. Jubilee Life and Jubilee Health are now one. Here for every chapter, together for better. Jubilee Life Insurance Company of Uganda is regulated by the Insurance Regulatory Authority of Uganda.
You will always know when you're in the presence of the finest. It's like time slows down, just enough for you to feel everything in full flavor.
Just Malt Lager. Alcohol is not for certain persons under 18. Please drink responsibly. There is a new era of elegance, and it begins at your event. At Peno Events, we have upgraded with fresh, modern, stylish event pieces designed to transform any space into a masterpiece. From luxury tents to elegant furniture to premium mobile washrooms, hand wash stations, lounge sets, parasols, wooden chairs, modern chair set, banquet setup. Peno Events. Safe, reliable, stylish. Book now.
Start something new, something uplifting, something so effortless and golden. A thirst-quenching burst of sweetness and malty flavor. So rich and full of memories. It's 100% taste, zero alcohol. Try it. Savor it. Feel it elevate every moment. Sip after sip, gulp after gulp. After all, life's about turning ordinary thrills into golden chills.
Start something malty with the new Evervest Malt Apple and Pineapple. Try the burst of sweetness and malty flavor. It's 100% taste, zero alcohol. Available in a shop or supermarket near you. Evervest Malt. Make every moment golden. Evervest Malt is from the makers of PepsiCo.
Welcome back. Now, there's growing concern on the heightened public expenditure attached to the political offices in Uganda. Every 5 years, a newly sworn-in parliament triggers an immediate multi-billion shilling taxpayer expense for MP cars, iPads and luxury allowances. But when court petitions later nullify these elections, the public is forced to double spend for a single seat with no way to recover the lost millions. Tonight, we expose the shocking financial and democratic drain of election petitions on the Parliament of Uganda and ask why taxpayers must continue to foot the bill for legal irregularities.
A total of 107 election petitions flooded the courts following the general elections, representing an astonishing 20% of the entire House. When these legally challenged lawmakers walk into chambers of parliament, they immediately accorded luxurious privileges. Chief among them is a hefty vehicle allowance of up to 315 million shillings per lawmaker, alongside top-of-the-range iPads, health insurance and administrative allowances. Governance expert Timothy Chimonges warns that when these elections are eventually overturned, the financial burden placed on the ordinary citizen is threefold, cutting across legislative business, constituency representation and direct public funds.
The salaries that they are earning and many of these other benefits that they do receive in terms of allowances upon assuming office, all these are monies that are dispersed to the respective members of parliament. And a few months down the road, the member of parliament's seat is declared either vacant or irregularly gotten. So what that means is that the citizen has already invested into this member of parliament.
Chimonges argues that this unpredictability paralyzes the day-to-day progress of local citizens, effectively taking the electorate back in time and wasting valuable resources. To fix this, he argues that all heavy opportunities and capital-intensive benefits should not be dispensed at once to MPs whose victories face active legal disputes.
Especially recognizing that the member of parliament has not fully assumed, or even if they have assumed, there's still a bit of uncertainty.
For the politicians who live through this, the nightmare is equally exhaustive. Veteran legislator Geoffrey Ekanya shares a harrowing personal account of the emotional and financial strain these legal battles inflict on a petitioner.
If that seat is nullified, the new MP will have to be first stated with the same amount of money. To me, that's a major cost. And the issue of office, it is only that the new MP will receive the same amount of money to purchase a vehicle. You, the candidate, or the person whose seat has been nullified, you have a double cost. And so you benefit twice.
Currently, the law does not provide for the retrospective recovery of payments or car allowances made to an ousted member of parliament. This means millions of shillings spent on salaries in luxury vehicles vanish into thin air, only to be spent a second time on the newly elected member. Governance analyst Egesa Leonard observes that beyond the monetary loss, the true damages lie in the deliberate disruption of democratic processes, particularly when opposition members are targeted.
So take, for example, a member of the opposition who is facing an election petition might be forced to abstain from taking certain votes to avoid offending the ruling party.
As the legal wheels slowly turn, critics argue that the institutional failure to establish dedicated, rapid response judicial technical teams continues to leave the House exposed to unpredictable leadership.
buy a car and you're thrown out of parliament, would you return the car or the money?
Can I keep both?
You see, that's the financial burden we're talking about.
Yes, it is. Well, on the other hand, we still have those judiciary that says that it is still within the legally prescribed timeline to commence hearing the 107 electoral petitions filed following the recently concluded 2026 general elections. According to the judiciary spokesperson, Justice Mawanda, this 6-month period with which electoral petitions are expected to be heard has not yet elapsed, and preparations to begin the hearings are nearing completion. However, the National Unity Platform, one of the parties that filed election petitions, is urging the courts to thoroughly examine the evidence submitted by its candidates and ensure justice is served.
Following the deadline for filing electoral petitions arising from the 2026 general elections, courts across the country received more than 107 petitions challenging results for various elective positions, excluding the presidency. Several months have since passed without the commencement of the hearing, leaving many petitioners anxious about the fate of their cases. Despite the concerns, the judiciary has moved to reassure complainants that the process remains on course and within the legal time framework.
We are soon going to start on the petitions. We are in time. You see, the biggest worry is the rumors that the time is running. Time is not running anywhere. We have the time. We are committed to ensuring that we handle these matters within the prescribed time of 6 months. So there shouldn't be any worry.
Justice Eremi Mawanda says the judiciary has already undertaken most of the preliminary arrangements and is now awaiting the start of the hearing process.
It's a process which has several steps. Okay? So we are on. That's why I said we are soon commencing.
The Electoral Commission, which is listed as a respondent in many of the petitions, alongside declared winners, say it is ready to cooperate with the courts throughout the proceedings.
So as Electoral Commission, we prepare for every phase of the electoral process, including petitions. We have legal teams that we hope to handle the matters that come up. Therefore, no doubt about, readiness of the Commission to respond to issues that are brought up as.
Critics have warned that the floods of election petitions is piling more pressure on already overwhelming judiciary, with courts grappling with massive case backlog.
Sometimes support is also giving the political support, and the parties rendering that political support to all people who are facing court battles.
These political disputes risk dragging out justice for ordinary Ugandans, tying up judges, court time and resources that should be handling criminal, civil and land cases.
All right, let's now take a look at some of the petitions that are outstanding. Of the 107 petitions are going to be handled. Victoria, where do we begin? There's so many.
I think let's
begin there.
Begin this side, right? While we're looking there at Maugara County, the two people that have petitioned, or rather the person who's petitioned, is Gorath Namuga, and that is versus Des Oswaldo Yuma over there, and as well as Kuto County, Jeffrey Lutaya and Uthman Lubega. That's where we're starting.
And this one is going to be quite an interesting one because there was a vote recount. Rose Nalwa versus Justin Namere, now appointed minister in Woman MP Masaka City seat. And then we go down to Toro Woman MP seat. Saro Pendi petitioned to challenge the victory of Angela Akoth. And then we come to Kampala Central. Quite a prominent battle there.
Yes.
David Lewis Rubongoya, Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, petitioning Minsa Kabanda, who is now the Minister for Kampala Central.
Yes. Ginger South Division West, we're looking at Moses Grace Baliaku, Timothy Batua as well there. That's an interesting one as well. On the other hand, let me start there with the Rukunjiri Municipality. Ingrid Turnawe and Henry Tumukunde.
That's going to be an interesting one also.
I agree.
Ingrid challenging Henry Tumukunde, who is also now appointed Minister for Gender. And then an interesting one here, Jet Tumwebaze versus Sodo Kaguta. Sodo Kaguta is now the newly elected Member of Parliament for Maogola North in Zimbabwe, challenged by Jet Tumwebaze, who he beat in an election. How are those going to turn out? But also, we're also getting into what sort of remedy do we need as a country to be able to deal with election petitions swiftly? We're now joined by Dr. Christopher Logo, who is a political analyst and a constitutional lawyer, to let us in on some of the remedies that we need as a country to be able to deal with election petitions, because many a times now you look at 107 petitions, 107 of them petitions, and you do not know whether there is enough time. Doctor, many thanks for joining us this evening. We get into just trying to understand some of the things here, and I may ask, Judiciary says that it is still within the 6 months legal window to hear the 107 petitions from the 2026 elections. Constitutionally, is that 6 months deadline realistic with this volume? And what happens if court fails to dispose of them in time?
No, the 6 month deadline is not realistic for the 107 petitions. Why? The Constitution was designed for 10 to 20 petitions, not 107. This is 5 times normal volume. So here is the math. Each petition needs about 30 days minimum. That means 107 multiplied by 30 equals 3,210 court days with 200 judges. That is 16 days per judge. Impossible within 6 months. If court fails, petition lapses after 6 months and elections results stand. So voters lack confirmed representatives. Uganda violates its own constitutional timeline and faces international condemnation. The truth is that we are seeking the judiciary to perform constitutional magic. Reform is not optional. It is constitutional necessity.
Dr. Christopher, we'd love to know one more thing. Looking at the courts, there is quite the backlog, if I should even say. There's a massive case backlog looking at criminal, civil, and land matters. What is the real cost implication, if I were to ask, of the financial justice-wise, of course, when 107 election petitions tie up the judges?
The costs are catastrophic. Uganda's 2.7 billion financially, and justice delayed for ordinary citizens is a challenge. Judges' salaries cost about 1.6 billion. Court logistics cost about 535 million. Witness transports about 231 million. Documentation about 214. The total is about 2.7 billion. This money should go to the healthcare, education, roads, not procedure delays. So the real cost is 107 judges unavailable for 6 months in terms of murder, in terms of rape, in terms of land cases that are stuck up. A farmer can actually wait up to 9 years instead of 3. A widow can actually wait for 10 years instead of 2. So the 2.7 billion is the price of efficiency. The justice cost is counting souls. That is the problem.
Well, Dr. Albogo, NUP is already urging courts to thoroughly examine evidence from its candidates. Legally, from that point of view, what standard of proof must petitioners meet to nullify an election, and how heavy is that burden compared to the regular civil cases?
The standard is actually preponderance of evidence, 60 to 70% likelihood, higher than civil, lower than criminal. Now, petitioners must prove 3 things. First, that the election was not conducted per constitutional pressure, bribery, or intimidation. Secondly, the result was affected by irregularities, manipulated counting, or changed results. And third, that the petitioner would have won if properly conducted. This means the following. This burden is extremely heavy. Courts discount political witnesses. Documents must be authenticated, not just presented. Experts must actually be independent. So the reality is most petitions fail. Only about 3 to 5% succeed historically. So the burden is practically nearly impossible. NUP's call to examine evidence is actually correct, but very difficult to meet.
Quite informative, if I should say. But finally, allow me to ask you, should Uganda actually consider special election tribunals or even tighter pre-election dispute mechanisms to protect democracy and the judiciary's capacity altogether?
Yes, our framework requires urgent reform. Why? In 2021, we had about 47 petitions. In 2026, we have 107. That is a 127% increase. So in 2021, we predict maybe 150 or even more. The framework was actually designed for 10 to 20 petitions. So we are at 107. This, my friends, is systematic failure. Now, 3 options we have. Number 1, amend the deadline to 12 months for over 50 petitions, 18 months to probably 100, and add a flexibility clause allowing courts to extend within justification or create special election tribunals separate from these regular judiciary. The bottom line is we are asking judges to do mathematical impossibility. Reform is not optional, it is constitutional necessity.
Well, maybe as we look into those constitutional reform suggestions from you, should we now start to consider special election tribunals? Is that a thing that you would vouch for?
Well, that's another beautiful question. And I would say, as far as that is concerned, that yes, Uganda does need both special tribunals and pre-election mechanisms. Why? Special tribunals are actually dedicated courts for election petitions only. In others, judges are trained in election law, benefits, and will benefit all the 107 petitions in about 4 months instead of 6. So no backlog affecting criminal or even civil cases. So perceived as a fairer and even less political. The cost is about 15 billion, but saves about 20 billion. So when you're talking about pre-election mechanism to resolve disputes before voting, 70% of the petitions get eliminated. Results actually are confirmed in about a week. There is less violence, they are lower cost by about 72%. So the best approach would be combine both. Pre-election that resolves the 70%, tribunals that handle remaining 30% in 4 months, and then the total 6 months in terms of saving the 2 billion annually reduces the violence about 70%. So the question is not whether we should, the question is when we will act.
Christopher Logo, many thanks for speaking to us there, giving us perspective on what should be done with election petitions. Do we need a special tribunal? Maybe what we need is a special announcement from UEDCL.
Absolutely, we do. Well, UDCL is shutting down somewhere, as we can see over there. There is a planned shutdown on June 14th. This is following the areas will be off supply from June 15th to the 24th of June, so a couple of weeks over there. Now, from June 15 to June 18, these particular areas are affected. You're looking at Sonde, you're looking at Jinja, Masinde, Seta. You're looking at all these areas over there. They will have a shutdown between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. If your area is included over there, you should definitely check out this particular post. Now, in June 19th to the 24th, just those few days, about 5, Makere Estate, as well as Giant Steel Industries, Mukono Recycling Company, Milling is Us Limited, and parts of Sonde, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. All affected customers, of course, are advised to plan accordingly during this particular period. Any inconvenience caused is highly regretted. Signed, management.
More to come.
Well, when we return from the break, lawyers are raising concerns over what they describe as loopholes in Uganda's passport laws. How our former ministers and members of parliament who lost their positions in the government being able to have and still hold diplomatic passports. That's a conversation we will return with after this break. Do you hold a diplomatic passport?
I want to so bad, but meanwhile, I also want to go for a break. Can we go there?
All right, listen up. Koala Cake is on a mission.
It's kind of a big thing.
Colgate Herbal uses traditional nature's herbs and combines it with Colgate science for healthy gums and strong teeth.
Colgate Charcoal Gentle Clean cleans and polishes teeth for a whiter smile and a naturally fresh and clean mouth. Choose natural. Choose Colgate Charcoal.
You need a bigger space to grow your business. You need to be ready for any season.
You need faster checkouts for these busy days.
You need more equipment to meet demand.
You need to make sure everyone gets paid on time.
In business, you need advice, solutions, and sector expertise when it matters.
Your new office space looks great. What's next?
We get it. Absa Business Banking.
How do you make a party? You take time to prepare, to bring all the pieces together, to craft it right. The result, great refreshment. And that makes it time well spent. Club, brewed longer for longer refreshment.
Why pay for someone else's repairs? Say goodbye to hidden costs and hello to peace of mind of a brand new start. Discover the Suzuki range of unmatched, fuel-efficient and reliable options. From the iconic Jimny to the new Across Hybrid. Find the perfect blend of style and world-class efficiency. Upgrade today and enjoy 1 year of free fuel and comprehensive insurance, plus 2 years of free service and a 3-year warranty. Trade in your current car or choose financing to start driving as you pay installments. Don't wait. Visit the Suzuki showroom today or call 0800-211-033 to get started.
The Ministry of Health informs the public to remain vigilant against Ebola virus disease. Symptoms include diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal pain, fever, and body weakness. If you or someone you know develops these symptoms, seek medical attention immediately. Protect yourself and others by avoiding handshakes and unnecessary physical contact, washing your hands regularly with soap and water, or using an alcohol-based sanitizer. Cleaning frequently touched surfaces and avoid direct contact with infected person's body fluids like vomit, stool, sweat, and urine. To report a suspected Ebola case, send an SMS to 6767 and type alert or call the toll-free number 0800 100 066. Report early, protect lives.
Can I have a light, please? What is this?
Castor Light, the best testing light.
Try it.
Try it, try it, try it. Da, 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 da.
Guys, look at this post.
Nothing hits like extra cold. Castle Light. Try it.
From 11 June to 19 July, everything can wait. The FIFA World Cup 2026. Catch all 104 matches on 4 dedicated channels, live on SuperSport, only on DSTV.
I'm called Awidi Isabella. I'm studying from Villa Maria School of Nursing. I've won a school fees with the MTN Momo. This school fees you win for a full year. which I'm very happy for it. I thank MPN Mama for helping me in paying my school fees.
We've paid all the fees for the year.
Thank you very much, because on Wednesday, the principal told me, look for my man and bring my man. I told her, me, I don't have man, and you have to wait until I get the money. But when I left our office, at 3, they called me that you've won the money from Momo. I said, how does it happen?
As long as you pay school fees using Momo, you stand a chance to win school fees for a year. Dial *165 *80# to win school fees for a year and more.
Lawyers are raising concerns over what they describe as loopholes in Uganda's passport laws, saying some former ministers and members of parliament who lost their seats in the new government may be exploiting gaps within the system to retain diplomatic passports after leaving office. Legal experts argue that the passports are meant solely for official government duties, and they warn that failure to surrender them could attract fines, imprisonment, and or both within the law.
Following President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's appointment of a new cabinet, several ministers who served in the previous administration were dropped, while some did not retain their positions in parliament. During their tenure, these officials were issued diplomatic passports, a privilege reserved for senior government officials to facilitate the execution of official duties and international travel on behalf of the state. However, legal experts argue that it is unlawful for former ministers to continue holding diplomatic passports after leaving office. They explain that such passports are issued strictly for the performance of government duties and should be surrendered once an individual is no longer serving in an official capacity.
The moment there is a recall, the ground rule is that you're supposed to surrender. It's a state instrument. You've been given that instrument by virtue of your position. So it does not matter whether you paid when you were getting the passport, you are supposed to be resubstituted and you get an ordinary passport.
The lawyers further explain that there is a well-established procedure for former officials. They note that despite these clear procedures, some former ministers and members of parliament have reportedly delayed returning their diplomatic passports. According to the lawyers, those holding on to the diplomatic passports after leaving office risk prosecution under the law. They say the offence carries penalties that include a fine of up to 600,000 Ugandan shillings, imprisonment for up to 6 months, or both.
Currents points to the equivalent of 600,000, but then also an equivalent of 6 months being imprisoned.
Legal experts also attribute the reluctance of some former ministers and MPs to return diplomatic passports to weaknesses in the law. They argue that since political appointments typically last 5 years, diplomatic passports should ideally be issued with a validity period matching the term of office rather than the current 10-year validity.
If you are giving passports of 10 years in service against officers of 5 years, then the problem is not of the passport holder. The problem is administrative, because you give me a 10-year passport, but you know my office is for 5 years. That means there is a lacuna in the law.
The lawyers further clarify that one of the biggest misconceptions discouraging former ministers from returning their diplomatic passports is the belief that doing so would automatically invalidate visas already issued by foreign countries.
They fear that the cancellation of that passport will mean the visa is being cancelled. The visa is not cancelled. Immigration just cancels the passport and gives it back to you. You have the passport, you can't use it to travel, but the visa is valid.
Police has intensified operations across the Kampala metropolitan area with more than 2,300 suspects arrested in the last 2 weeks. According to the police, a total of 2,334 persons have been apprehended in different operations conducted in the areas of Katwe, Mukono, Chira Division and Sanji. Police spokesperson Rusoke Kituma says that out of those arrested, 164 suspects were released on police bond, while 550 5 were cautioned and warned. Police does say another 1,350 persons, and we're talking suspects here, have been taken to court, while 307 cases are still under investigation.
Whereas we may be having constant disturbances from some of our youths, they pickpocket here, they snatch here, they try to break in there. Our stand is that we shall continuously do disruptive operations to ensure that we get rid of some of these fellows. What we call upon the general public is to do these operations hand in hand with you. We need your information so that we do not target innocent people. We need intelligence. We need evidence. So in the last 2 weeks, we carried out disruptive operations in Kampala metropolitan area, and the following statistics are hereby conveyed. 1, we made 2,334 arrests.
The government is in a move to curb the increase of road accidents, proposing to hold vehicle owners accountable for traffic offences committed in their cars, banning of those ear-splitting horns, in addition to stiffer penalties for reckless drivers.
In our execution of this assignment, of course, we had a number of issues. One, they are legal related. They may require amendment of the main law, and this is done by Parliament. So these views we are also going to put them to the Cabinet. Cabinet will decide, will guide us, and if there are any amendments required, they will go to Parliament and then amend the law. Others are technical, like systems, to make sure that the system is working well, no multiple tickets and the rest, but also the road, to make sure that we have signposts, we have proper road markings, everything, so that when we start enforcing, then we don't need to get worried, or the other person, the motorist, will not bring excuses. And you see now, I didn't know there was a camera ahead. I didn't know that I was supposed to overtake from here. So once we do this, we hope this also is going to bring in some order. But most importantly, we would like to continue engaging the public through sensitization.
What have your leaders been saying?
What have they been saying on Social Spotlight? We started off with the president of the country.
Absolutely. This afternoon, I officially opened the cabinet induction retreat at Chankwanza. I reminded the leaders that the historical role of the NRM and post-independence African leadership is socio-economic transformation. He likes it. We cannot continue to have people trapped in subsistence production. Our mission is to move every household into the money economy through commercial agriculture, manufacturing, services, and ICT. Leaders must guide the people towards wealth creation, value addition, and prosperity. We must, build middle-income class and skilled working class. That is the benchmark by which leadership should be judged. We must finish that tweet.
Very key words. If you were invited to Chankwanzi, would you go?
As Minister of
Keir Starmer says we are banning social media access for under 16s. I'm sure you're clapping for that. Now, these days, kids must find their feet in a world where technology intrudes into every area of their life. I just can't let that go anymore. So we're giving children their childhoods back.
In Uganda, we must ban social media for under 30s. Major General Jim Muhwezi, eager for the next term dedicated to developing a more secure and productive notion that advances the NRM's tenfold growth strategy. Security remains a core driver of economic growth.
Well, one day I do hope that when we're reading Social Spotlight, one of my tweets can be up there, and perhaps you might be able to read them.
See why we're banning social media for under 30s?
Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be right back.
In a world that's always changing, the foundations of trust must stay strong. For over 60 years, we've built the minds that build trust, shaping the professionals who carry confidence into boardrooms, communities, and lives. Because trust doesn't happen by chance, it's built, tested, and taught. As the world moves forward, so do we, blending data, innovation, and human insight to prepare the next generation of industry leaders.
Insurance Training College in Uganda, enhancing professionalism. Carrying cash can be stressful. The I&M Bank multi-currency prepaid card makes paying smart and simple. Load and spend confidently in 9 currencies: Ugandan shilling, Kenyan shilling, Tanzanian shilling, Rwandan franc, Indian rupees, United States dollar, British pound, euro, and South African rand. Enjoy safe, simple payments wherever you go. The I&M Bank multi-currency prepaid card is open to everyone, whether you have an I&M Bank account or not. Get yours today and pay confidently worldwide in 9 currencies.
I&M Bank Uganda Limited is regulated by Bank of Uganda. Customer deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund up to 10 million shillings. Terms and conditions apply.
I&M Bank, on your side.
MTN voice bundle. Load. Hey. Hello, Mama. Hey, it is me, your son, Opio. Hey, now, Mama, listen to me. MTN has the offer. Yes, it has the offer. You load from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now, they have free MTN to MTN minutes. And those minutes are there all day. So you load, you'll thank me later. Hey, Mama.
Load an MTN voice bundle between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. and get 3 free MTN to MTN minutes valid all day. Dial *100 *21 hash and get your free minutes bully daily. Free your fire with free minutes from MTN. Together, our connection is unstoppable. MTN.
Hey, travelers! Are you a family gearing up for that big vacation, a hustler working abroad coming home, or your squad chasing sunsets and passport stamps? It's time you lock in. Say goodbye to long airport queues, shocking roaming bills, and the stress of hunting for local SIM cards, because now you can travel like a local. Stay connected in over 180 countries. Just scan, tap, and boom! Instant data the moment you reach your destination. Get your Rogue Travel eSIM today at travel.roguetelecom.co.ug. Contact us on 020-500-123.
This PDM is to get all of you out of poverty. That's why we said 100 million per parish per year.
The parish development model is designed to eradicate poverty by providing the support necessary for financial independence.
We have seen how 1 million, how much 1 million can do. The whole of Uganda is very rich. So what you call poverty is actually ignorance. We need everybody to come up.
Let us all take advantage of the conducive prevailing atmosphere of political stability, peace and security to ensure that all our people come out of poverty.
And I've told the banks to stop deducting from the 1 million. You must get the 1 million full. The government is the one which will pay the bank charges.
Now the number of stools in this Matoke enterprise are 1,000. They are on 1 acre. And we harvest 17 bunches every day. The money that we get from this Matoke, after selling each bunch at 15,000 shillings,
For the whole year, we get 91.9 million shillings. So I want to encourage all the people of Teso also to change the mindset and adopt to new crops which were not traditionally grown here.
We emphasize two words, wealth and jobs. This PDM is to get all of you out of poverty.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance.
Business Pulse, brought to you by
In business tonight, global stock markets have surged while oil prices have fallen sharply following a landmark peace agreement between the United States and Iran, and that has also eased fears of a prolonged conflict in the Middle East. Economists say that the development could eventually bring relief to countries that depend on oil imports, including Uganda. However, they caution that the benefits may take time to be felt by ordinary citizens.
While simultaneously opening the Strait of Hormuz, you already see oil prices from a high of $126 a barrel down to about $80 a barrel today. That's a lot of progress.
The announcement of a peace agreement between the United States and Iran has been welcomed by economists and market analysts who describe it as a significant step towards restoring confidence in the global economy. The agreement, which seeks to end months of tensions and secure vital trade routes in the Middle East, triggered an immediate positive reaction on international markets. Stock markets surged while oil prices declined amid expectations of improved stability and uninterrupted global supply chains. Economists say the development is particularly important for Uganda because the country imports a significant portion of fuel, manufactured goods, and industrial inputs that drive the economy.
It's a good step, and it brings good news to not only Uganda but across the whole world. For instance, immediately was announced, we saw the Brent crude futures fell by 4%, and now the price of barrel of crude oil has now gone down to $83, which is a good sign when this deal is eventually signed, that when the oil that is cheaper is brought into the country, the prices of petroleum, let's say petrol, gasoline and diesel, will eventually go down.
Analysts explain that lower global oil prices could eventually reduce transport and production costs, easing pressure on businesses and helping to slow inflation. This, they say, could in turn influence the prices of a wide range of commodities and services that depend on transport and imported inputs.
When this deal is eventually signed on Friday, it means that later, when the oil that is cheaper is brought into the country, these companies will be able to use oil or petroleum products that are cheaper, and when they feed it into their production process, it will lower the costs of production for these companies, and eventually these products that have been expensive, the sugar, the salt, the soap, and the bakery products, will eventually come down in terms of pricing.
However, analysts caution that Ugandans should not expect immediate changes in fuel and commodity prices. They note that the country's liberalized market structure means local prices are influenced by several factors, including existing stock levels, exchange rate movements, and decisions by private sector players.
It's not immediate because it's going to take quite a lot of time. We have to give it from 2 to 6 months to see the prices even out in the economy. We have to wait to celebrate this milestone because we know Israel hasn't come out to give its position. The agreement calls for, a cessation of, wars on all fronts, including Lebanon.
While the full impact of the agreement will depend on how long stability is maintained in the Middle East, economists maintain that sustained lower oil prices, reduced inflationary pressures, and a strong shilling could ultimately translate into lower business costs and improved purchasing power for ordinary Ugandans.
Let's come back home. With debt repayments climbing and external funding drying up, East African governments are turning to their tax authorities as the frontline defense against growing fiscal strain. From Kenya to Rwanda, revenue agencies are being tasked with financing increasingly large portions of national budgets. A strategy economists and tax experts question whether the region can collect its way out of a fiscal crunch without undermining investment, business growth and consumer spending.
As East African governments confront a difficult fiscal reality of rising debt repayments, shrinking donor support and growing demands for public service, tax authorities are emerging as the region's most critical financial lifeline to collect more revenue into state coffers. Across the East African community, revenue agencies are being tasked with financing ever larger portions of national budgets, reflecting a broader shift towards domestic resource mobilization as borrowing becomes more expensive and external funding less reliable. But as governments push for higher tax collections, economists are raising a critical question whether East Africa can strengthen public finances without placing additional strain on businesses, consumers, and economic growth. From Nairobi to Kigali, finance ministers are increasingly looking inward, relying on stronger domestic tax collection to finance ambitious budgets and close widening fiscal gaps.
In hard economic times, we just emerged from elections, from the trade order and other challenges. The cost of living is increasing, but also with the budgetary allocations towards critical programs under the ATMS, we see that jobs will be created if implementation is addressed or done right. Because what we need is the economy to be vibrant.
So I would say there's still room for growth, but even as these countries try to bring the informal sector in, they should be careful that some of the reforms that they bring, A, make sense, they are financially efficient, B, that they won't hurt businesses, 3, that they won't create joblessness, 4, that the resources that are collected are put to good use.
However, economists and trade analysts caution that expanding the tax register should not be confused with simply increasing the number of taxpayers without corresponding growth in economic activity.
They need to explore how to expand the tax base, as opposed to taxing the same people again and again. How do you effectively expand? But also there's a challenge of bloating the tax register with people who are not going to viably contribute to the resource envelope. So there's also that risk, so they need to look out for it.
Analysts say there is also a risk that aggressive revenue drives would undermine the region's efforts to attract investment.
There is a lot of evasion. It means we haven't tapped the potential of the informal and the subsistence sector. And that presents really a huge challenge.
Of Kenya shillings 4.82 trillion, Kenya plans to finance 76% of its national budget through domestically generated revenues of 61.9 trillion Tanzanian shillings. Tanzania targets 71% of Rwandan francs, 6,951 billion. Rwanda expects domestic revenues to cover 66% of its spending plans, and Uganda projects 52% financing from tax and non-tax revenues of 84.3 trillion shillings resource envelope for financial 2026-2027.
I've been meaning to understand the stock markets. Can you explain them to me like I am a 5-year-old child?
Well, this is super easy. I should say, if you were a trader, you would understand the movements that were going on here. Some people are making money, some people are losing money.
All right, let's take a look and see who is winning, who is losing tonight.
And who's gaining money, right? Well, let's start it off. You should know that altogether throughout the day, though, trading numbers were about 3.7 million shares were traded throughout the day. A total of 58 deals were recorded across the market. You're looking there at Airtel Uganda, Batu, Bobu, pretty much stable out there. Centum Investment, DFCU, well, the Centum Investment was actually up 0.50% at selling their shares at 404.28 shillings. Now, Connery, this would matter to you if you were buying the Centum Investment shares, whether the prices is going up or going down altogether. DFCU, on the other hand, their prices was up 0.30%, selling at 332 shillings altogether. Now, East African Breweries Limited was down 0.06%, while as 7,217.23 altogether. If you're wondering whether Uganda is affected in any kind of way in terms of the global markets and what's been happening there, we don't feel the pinch just as much, but our stocks could definitely benefit from the positive sentiments throughout the world, especially with now oil coming back into play and all those kinds of stuff. But pretty much that's our